If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, we have Shane Campbell on the show. He returns to action December 6th in a little over 2 weeks at Unified MMA 39 in Canada, taking on Dawond Pickney. You catch all the action on Fight TV. Shane, how are you, man?
I'm feeling great, thank you.
So we're 15 days away from this fight as we record this conversation. How has everything been going in regards to how you're feeling, the training camp, etc.?
I've been feeling great. I'm back in Edmonton right now, training with some friends. My last camp, I went back to Ontario with Shaolin and the House of Champions, but now for this one, I'm back up in Edmonton. So it's nice to reconnect with a lot of old friends.
You were supposed to fight Spencer Jebb on this card, from my understanding, before the switch was made to your new opponent. What happened there, and when did you find out that you'd have a new opponent for this fight?
I'm not exactly sure what happened. I didn't bother to ask. I've often had opponents be switched out many, many times, and going into any fight, I kind of assume that will happen. So it doesn't really shake me up or bother me by any means. But not too much changes on my end. I haven't changed how I'm training too much or anything about it. So makes no difference to me, really.
I mean, you've been doing this for a while, so opponent switch-ups really make no difference for you. It's like you said, it's probably something you're accustomed to, and it's almost like you're preparing for it almost.
Yeah, I mean, I never really prepare for it. It's not something I feel I have to prepare for, the switch up. It doesn't bother me. Even I'm not shy to take a fight on 2 weeks' notice in itself. So what would be the difference of that compared to opponents switching out at 3 weeks out?
A lot of fighters kind of like approach preparation different, because some are very analytical. Like George St. Pierre watch tons of footage, tons of film on his opponents to sort of get tendencies and things like that. Others just don't watch any film. They focus on themselves and how they can become a better martial artist and be the best version of themselves in the cage. Do you watch any footage at all at this point in your career, or do you let your coaches sort of do that stuff and then you just sort of, pick away pieces from that advice?
I'm a little bit more the second one. I have a couple coaches that are great at watching video and picking someone apart. I do watch video, of course. I don't do it extensively. I watch a couple times, and I try not to dwell and think. I definitely don't want to be sitting here thinking that the person that I'm going to fight is going to be doing this move, and when he does this move, I'm going to counter this. I never want to go into a fight thinking like that. Because what if my opponent never throws that move, and I'm sitting there for wasting half of a fight waiting for something to happen that's never about to happen? So
it's a good way to look at it. Did you know much about Dawond when this fight was offered to you? Like, he's been in there with some tough guys for sure. I know he's fought Jared Gordon and guys like Adam Townsend and Chris Gutierrez, and the list sort of goes on here. But he certainly doesn't seem like a guy who shies away from any kind of a fight or a matchup. How familiar were you with Dawond?
Oh, I never heard of him.
Between your coaches and you doing your research and watch whatever footage, what are some of the things you've learned about him along the way?
I mean, it's not something exactly I want to be putting out on an interview right now, just because, what I've learned about him is what I'm going to use to try to kind of gear my game plan within the fight. But I mean, if you wanted to have an interview after, I'd be more inclined to talk about that kind of setup going into it.
Fair enough. I wasn't asking for like specific game plans or anything, but just more general stuff that you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, he's not shy away from a fight, so I don't think he's going to be avoiding me or avoiding the fight. I think he's probably going to come to the center of the cage and ready to throw some bombs.
I'm curious. Do you feel like you've been around this game for a while? You've been in the UFC. Do you feel like that experience that you had having a bunch of big fights on the big stage, has that sort of expanded the target on your back? People are essentially jumping at the chance to fight you? Or do you feel like more on the other side of things where you have a tougher time getting fights? Like, obviously you've been pretty active, so it usually works out for you, but how has that been over the last couple of years?
No, I don't think I've never really had a hard time getting a fight, finding a fight. It's pretty funny. I have friends that have, less than 10 fights and they can't find a fight to save their life. But here I am. I'm sitting with this fight, and I have a next fight already lined up. So I'm not really I'm not really too worried. I think I don't know if that must have put a little bit of a target on my back. Of course, anyone that's trying to get to the UFC, one of the main ways of getting there is going through an ex-UFC guy. So, and that's the target that's going to be on my back. It's going to be people that are very hungry, wanting to get to that big show. So yeah, I think you're right in that sense.
And I feel like that sort of helps you too, because it's like in the NFL, when a team plays the Patriots, no matter how good or bad they are, record-wise, they always play their best game against the Patriots. I feel like that's the same for you, and that only helps your chances too, because you're getting the best version of everybody that you're fighting. Is that a fair assessment on my part?
Yeah, I would like to think that, right? I believe in a team sport. You can have a couple weak links, but the team will still carry the everything to the top, right? Where in a single man sport, you have one or two weak links, and that can just crumble the entire structure, the entire yourself, right? Where you get one or two bad guys, but the rest of the team can still carry it. You get one or two maybe injuries or negative thoughts or bad days, and that can crumble your entire camp or ruin your fight.
Is this
without?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. And in that case, your coaches that are there, no matter how dedicated and passionate they are, you're the only person in that cage, and they can't, as much as they can give you the instructions and help and motivation, they can't carry you through the fight.
Is this the main event or the co-main event on December 6th?
I think it's the co.
Yeah. The co-main. And when you sort of visualize this all playing out, how do you see this all playing out at Unified MMA 39? How does your hand get raised? What's sort of the the consistent vision you have?
Oh, that's always the consistent vision of me having my hand raised. No matter how I get there, whether it's a submission or a knockout or a decision win, I am not playing too much on that. But I definitely want my hand raised and keep my W streak going here.
You mentioned you have another fight lined up, and I saw that you signed a multi-fight deal with Fight Night in Canada, and your first fight on the new deal will be January 25th against fellow UFC veteran Mike Santiago at Fight Night 12. Congratulations to you on the new deal. I assume you're very happy with this.
Yeah, of course. It's another great promotion to fight for, and exactly that. They're matching me up with an ex-UFC vet, and who knows? That's a fight that if I pull out this win and going into that fight with an ex-UFC guy, that is about that potentially whoever wins that one could get the call up, or at least be on deck for a short notice fight when in the UFC someone gets injured, and if either of us, whoever were to win, is ready for the next one, can more. There's going to be a much higher chance of catching that short notice fight and getting back in there, signing the big deal.
So I'm sure this is like a silly and probably a redundant question on my part, but the goal with all of this is to get back there, right? To get back in the UFC, because you seem to be doing quite fine without fighting in the octagon. Of course, a lot comes, you've been there with being in the UFC in terms of eyeballs and opportunity, but is this the goal to get back there, or are you still happy with what you're doing now because you are active and you're still getting these big deals?
Yeah, no, I'm a very content person. I've always been happy with what I have, and yeah, it would be nice to make it to be on the biggest stage in front of the most eyes. But I am very happy with where I'm at and the people I'm surrounded with. So as long as I keep enjoying every day, I can't really complain.
So how does this new deal work? Is it going to be sort of an exclusive fight deal moving forward, or can you still bounce around if other opportunities arise?
For the most part, it's exclusive. I want to be loyal to them. Now, I've fought with Unified for years prior to, and before I went to work with Fight Night, I talked to Sonny and Unified, and I brought the situation up to them, and I asked them how they felt about it, and there was an agreement that we could take that it was okay for me to take that, and then coming back to Unified, I talked with Tom and the promoters there and with Fight Night just to make sure everyone was on the same page, because as much as they're not in the same city, but they're in the same province, the two promotions, and there's obviously a little bit of competition, but but also myself, I can't really be bouncing around too much. There's not enough time in the year, and it takes a little bit of a couple weeks maybe for a fight camp. So Fight Night has offered me the deal that I have is pretty stellar. So I don't need to be jumping around to other promotions as long as they're going to be giving me some fights. So
how many fights is the new deal, if you don't mind me asking?
The new deal is 4. So I fought with my first fight with him, and now the contract will be for the next 4 fights.
For another 4 fights in addition to the one you already fought?
Yes.
Are you hoping to knock all 4 of those out in 2020?
I'm hoping to knock everyone out that I ever fight. Yeah.
No, I meant in terms of the fights on the contract. Are you hoping to have all 4 of those fights next year?
It's a progressive. Yes, ideally, depending on my body. I've been plagued even through the UFC. I was plagued with injuries, and even like now outside of the UFC, I've had many more injuries again. Just mostly torn ligaments and tendons. It kind of comes with the territory, you know what I mean? And as long as my body, and I had sciatica really bad last year, and just a whole bunch of weird, odd injuries. But yeah, as long as my body will hold up, I want to for sure get through all 4 fights, win them all, and that's going to progress my contract to getting paid the top end of what the contract will offer, right? So my contract only progresses if I win. So of course I want to make sure I get 4 wins.
How do you feel overall physically now? Like compared to how you felt while you were in the UFC, do you feel better now? Do you feel sort of consistent to where you were back then? How would you say your body is sort of held up to the sport in 2019 heading into 2020?
2019 was a really rough year in the case of my body and injuries. I pushed through a couple of fights anyway. I took one loss out of I took one loss with the sciatica. I had 2 fights with it. I got a win and then a loss, and then kind of getting rid of it. I had my last fight and last camp was kind of the tail end of those symptoms and everything. But I've kind of passed through that. Unfortunately, I have a couple different injuries now, different parts of the body, but it just makes me utilize some of the different tools that I have at my disposal.
Have you been sort of amazed on, you know, the different ways to take care of those injuries, all the different things that have come out over the last couple of years? Because I feel like there's a lot more stuff at your disposal now than there was, say, in 2016 or 2017. Have you noticed that as well? And what kinds of things have you taken advantage of, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a perfect segue, and thank you very much. I actually work at Apothic Wellness Naturals Clinic here in Edmonton. So this is a wellness clinic for mostly chronically ill patients, working with a lot of Lyme and cancer and those type of patients. But within the clinic, we have some phenomenal options at our disposal, like hyperbaric chambers and PEMF machines and some very high-end stuff that you would no normal person, unless they're specifically looking for tools to save their life for the most part, right? Like a hyperbaric chambers is something that you're never going to really be learning about unless you're searching it and trying to find this type of thing. So I do have those at my disposal, and they've been helping a lot for not just this past year, but I think I've hooked up with them about 4 years ago now.
We're such professionals here. Perfect segues, unbelievable. Look at us. It's like a professional broadcast.
First
here.
time too. Yeah.
How about that? First time we've chatted, and it's like we were feeding off each other. Great. Shane Campbell returns to action December 6th against Dawond Pickney at Unified MMA 39 in Canada. If you can't make it up there, you can watch all the action on Fight TV. Great having you on, Shane. Before we let you go, man, let the folks know where they can find and follow you on the web, social media, any shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Shane Shaolin Campbell on pretty much every platform, and huge thanks to the gyms that have been helping me in this fight camp here, Wolf House, Kingdom, and Complete. a lot of great people there at each gym that has been pushing me and helping me to become my best. And thank you, Unified, for letting me put on back here in Edmonton.
Thank you, Shane. Appreciate the time, man. All the best to you on December 6th.
Cheers, man. Take care.